My mum was taking another step with another man. I was happy for her and he seemed like a nice guy. He treated me like some father-son thing, but I didn't want to consider him as my father yet. Since she was looking that happy, I was moving out so they could have time for their own, and I started buying a small apartment with my girlfriend. Me and my girlfriend visited my mum's house last year and things started to get worse. I wanted to introduce her to my mum and my stepdad, so we stayed at their house for a few days. However, during dinner, my stepdad started being creepy and perverted towards my girlfriend at the time. She was quite nervous around my family and I just told her, relax and be friendly, and the moment she did that, it was like he assumed she was into him or something. He kept trying to make prolonged eye contact and trying to catch glimpses of her when she was doing yoga, etc. He would only stop when I stared at him. I asked my girlfriend if she was okay, but she said she was fine, but I didn't feel much okay. One night she went downstairs for a cup of water. I didn't mind. However, she took a long time just to get some water. I felt anxious, so I got down to the kitchen to check. Immediately, I saw my stepdad try to hit on my girl. Now, how dare he? It was quite dark, but I could clearly see that he was being a super pervert towards her, and I watched that attitude all night long. I made a loud fuss at him. I even tried to hit him in the face. I was so angry, but my girlfriend stopped me and said it was fine. My stepdad kept telling me nothing happened, he was just thirsty. Yeah, right. Thirsty for my girl, right, old man? I was so frustrated and told my girlfriend to leave at that moment. My mum tried to stop me, but I didn't want to stay another minute with this man and let my girl be like that. After we went back to our apartment, my girlfriend didn't say a word. I thought I should leave her some time alone since she could be so shocked after this. I didn't know what happened to my mum right now. Did she believe him? Or was she just like me? But at the same time, I was thinking about what happened. Why didn't she call for help? I could see that she could scream anytime she wanted, but he didn't seem to threaten her. Did she enjoy it? I knew that she often enjoyed when other guys gave her a little bit of attention, and I understand that she can do what she wants, but it made me feel disrespected and unwanted in a committed relationship. And now the idea that she might kind of be into it or enjoying the attention also made me feel horrible, and I found it made it really hard for me to keep being sexually intimate with her. And just that, our relationship fell down. She started giving me distant feelings and she was on the phone all the time. I also noticed that she wore a lot of short clothes, sometimes inappropriate, and we fought a lot. I felt terrible, but I thought that she'd had a tough time trying to overcome this perverted thing. But one day I woke up alone. I didn't see my girlfriend or even her stuff. It was like she had never been here before. I called her, but I didn't receive any answer. I reached her on social media and found out she blocked me. I sensed something was wrong, so I called my mum and I heard a sobbing sound on the other line. She cried and said that my stepdad had disappeared, leaving only a note that said, "Sorry, honey, I guess you were not the one. I'm going away with the love of my life." I was completely in shock, and I knew the love of my life here was my girlfriend. So they ran away together in the night without any notice for me and my mum. I couldn't say a word, only quietly heard my mum crying over the phone. Our hearts both shattered into pieces. How could they do that? It was fine if they hurt me. I had a whole life ahead of me. But my mum, why did he treat her like this? I sold the apartment and moved back to my mum's house to take care of her. We were both vulnerable and miserable at the time, but I had to be strong for her. And I was pretty sure with that perverted, disgusting being, eventually he would leave my ex. Now me and my mum stayed together, well actually moved on, and still stayed by each other's side. We agreed not to care about anything about the other two, no matter what happened to them, and we felt okay.
My sister is 27 and I'm 18. We lost our dad a year ago. He was our only parent as our mom was never in mine or my sister's life. Our dad left a good chunk of inheritance money for me and my sister. She instantly blew her inheritance on luxury items like new cars and renovated her house. My brother-in-law wouldn't allow me to stay with them, so I'm currently living with my aunt at her house. I want to become a doctor and haven't picked my branch yet, but I know it's going to be expensive. My sister and I haven't been close ever since she got married to her chronically ill husband, who was allowed to make backhanded comments about my dad and mock his illness, then make a scene at his funeral. This was all allowed because he's ill and shouldn't be held accountable for his behavior. I I've distanced myself, but recently my sister kept visiting and venting about my brother-in-law's condition. He's been in and out of the hospital for heart problems and in need for a surgery. She brought up my inheritance money several times, but I ended up cutting the conversation short whenever it was mentioned. She then straight up asked if I could help pay for her husband's surgery and she'd pay it back in less than a year. I felt uneasy because if I give her the money, then there's no guarantee she'll pay it back before it's time to pay for my tuition. I'm taking a gap year, but I know my sister can't pay that much back and I felt like it would be risking my future. When I refused to help, she had a meltdown at my aunt's house calling me heartless and cruel with no empathy. She said that her husband's health should be priority and I needed to help her because education is nothing compared to someone's health. She then asked if I'd be happy to see her as a widow and my nephew with no father. My aunt suggested others pay, but most of them cut my sister and her husband off. I argued that her husband's poor health isn't my fault after she kept blaming me and guilt-tripping me. She kept crying, and although my aunt decided to stay out of it, she said I should be prepared for permanent damage in my relationship with my sister if I don't help her now. She's been sending texts and pictures of her family telling me that this is what I'm saying no to, a happy, healthy family with a healthy husband and father. I broke down and I feel like I'm being a terrible aunt and sister. However, when I asked my friend for advice, he said that let them sell their cars and luxurious stuff they bought to afford the surgery and warned me that if I give her the money now, I'll never get it back and may not be able to go to medical school. Am I wrong for refusing to pay for my brother-in-law's surgery? Storytime about how I used to hook up with my husband's brother. A couple of years ago, my boyfriend and I were going through a rough patch. We were both doing things that bothered the other, but we would never talk about what was going on and how we felt. We slowly began to distance from each other until one day we had a fight and it was the final straw. We broke it off and I was so hurt that I stopped talking to him. It just so happened that his older brother was my best friend and I turned to him for comfort. His brother had always been very respectful and a wonderful friend to me. We spent a lot of time together without my boyfriend, which I think would bother my boyfriend and is one of the reasons that caused us to distance from each other initially. After the breakup, I started meeting up with my best friend and slowly things started to become steamy. One kiss and touch led to us going all the way in his car. We both felt very guilty the first time because I had just broken up with my boyfriend, but this tension had been building up for quite a while. We would often meet at abandoned building parking lots by my house in the middle of the night to hook up. We kept it this way for months, meeting secretly to hook up, and I could tell that he was starting to develop feelings for me, but for me it was purely physical. Around this time, I was talking to my boyfriend again about getting back together, which is what I really wanted. I talked to my best friend and asked him to promise that he would never tell anyone what we did. No one in his family could ever find out that we had this kind of relationship. He was hurt and said he couldn't promise me this. However, I got back with my boyfriend anyway. About 4 months after breaking it off with my best friend, my boyfriend and I got engaged. We mended our problems and we're happily married now with a daughter. I could tell his brother was upset and he soon started dating a girl that I think he might have been talking to when we were sneaking around. I know that having a family was all my best friend ever wanted and now his brother has that with me. Thankfully, my now husband's brother has never spoken about our steamy nights in the parking lot, but I'm always afraid he might say something one day out of spite. I met my boyfriend 5 years ago on a dating website. We met up for drinks and hit it off instantly. When I told him I didn't want children, he said he was okay with it as he didn't see himself wanting any either. This seemed perfect because it was a deal breaker in many of my previous relationships. The first few years of our relationship was great. We traveled, moved in together, and advanced in our careers. About 6 months ago, my boyfriend told me that he's had a change of heart and wants a family. He said that with COVID and him nearing 35, he's realizing that life is short and wants to be a father. I was shocked by this, but stuck with my position. He begged me to reconsider and at least think of it because he couldn't see his life without me and wanted to have that family with me. I took time to think on it, but no matter which way I put it, it wasn't something that I saw in my life. I don't think I'm responsible enough to take care of another human being besides myself, and there are so many things I want to do in my life that I'd have to put on hold if I was to have children. When I told my boyfriend my decision, I was expecting us to break up. However, he told me that he'd rather have me than have a family because he couldn't see himself with anyone else. He was adamant about this, and I believed him. I'm not on birth control because it affects me horribly, but we always use protection. I missed my period a couple of weeks ago, but they've always been irregular, so I didn't think anything of it. However, I also started having early pregnancy symptoms and decided to take a pregnancy test. It came back positive and I was shocked. I told my boyfriend and he was ecstatic. When I told him that I didn't want to keep it, he lost it. We got into a heated argument, and this is when he slipped up about tampering with the rubber. Part 2. My boyfriend tried to force me to keep the baby. When he admitted to tampering with the rubber, I was shocked. He told me that he poked holes in it in hopes that I'd get pregnant and I want to keep it. I was horrified and I broke down. Not only was I pregnant when never planning on having children, but it was intentionally done by my partner who I trusted. I told him that I wasn't keeping it and that I was leaving him. This is when he started to guilt trip me and threaten me. I grew up in an extremely religious family, and this is a small reason as to why I don't want children. He knew that my parents are firmly pro-life, and my life would be a living nightmare if they ever found out that I was pregnant and didn't keep it. They always told me that if I was irresponsible enough to have an unplanned pregnancy, then I should be responsible enough to deal with the consequences of my actions. He also told me that he would fight me on it as he should have a say since he's the father. When I told him that I'd tell everyone how he tampered and set me up after knowing I didn't want children, he said that no one would believe me as I have no proof. I called my sister and told her everything. She let me move my things in with her and helped me make all the arrangements. My ex took to social media and told everyone that I was refusing to keep his child, getting rid of it against his will. He also called my parents and told them the same. My sister eased the blow and helped me explain everything. Surprisingly, they understood and supported me in my decision. I cut off contact with everyone who didn't support my decision, including my ex. He showed up at my house trying to get me back and saying it was okay that I didn't want children. I shut the door in his face and threatened to call the police on him if he ever tried to contact me again.
Am I the asshole for being jealous of my boyfriend's cousin? My boyfriend is out of town with his family. He's sort of far away, around 8 hours drive from our hometown. He's visiting there with his dad and siblings. They're staying at their grandparents' house and all the cousins are there. He is sharing a room with his female cousin that is the same age as him, and they're sharing a bed.
How old did they say they were?
They never said their ages.
Okay.
How distant of cousins are they?
She's been hanging off him for the week they've been there. She's been sleeping in his shirts, his boxers, etc. Mind you, she lives 25 minutes away, so she could go grab her own things. She wears his swim shorts while swimming, his clothes to bed, his hoodie everywhere. It just seems weird to me. And when I ask how they are related, he doesn't give me an answer and just avoids the question. So, are they actually even cousins? I feel so weird about it, and all my friends say I'm overreacting. Maybe I am, since I've never been close with any of my cousins, though. So am I the asshole?